What's up, everybody? Welcome into Shout, a Buffalo football podcast. It's a pretty big weekend, I would say, Ryan Talbot. Pretty big game. I was just talking to a couple Bills fans out here at Wingnuts tonight, and the anxiety level is very high in Buffalo right now. But I also think sneaky under the surface, the anxiety level in Jacksonville is also pretty high. We're going to get to that in a minute. We're live here at Wingnuts, 4600 Genesee Street, right by the airport. This guy's staying at the Buffalo Airport Hotel, connected right next door. Wow, I just put your business way out there. I'm sorry about that. But we got to get on a plane tomorrow morning. We're getting to Jacksonville. Well, all right. So we are going to Jacksonville, but a little news here. We're flying to Orlando because the flights were absolutely insane cheap, right? And I think we're going to Disney World as a couple tomorrow.
We got to get the matching Mickey ears or something for a photo op for sure. Yeah, unbelievable opportunity in front of us there to go to Disney. Going to be a good time. Appreciate you looking for those cheaper flights so I could kind of tag along.
So one of our Shout regular listeners, her name is Sarah. She reached out to us. She said, hey, I work at Disney World. I'm a cast member. Why don't I get you guys in for free? Well, I already have an annual pass, all right? So I'm getting in technically for free, but it's not really free, Ryan, because if you take a look at my bank statements, the annual pass is quite expensive. But she's hooking you up. She's meeting us there tomorrow. We love meeting Shout fans all over the world. It is going to be an awesome weekend. Guardians of the Galaxy is first up. But before we get there, we got a big game to talk about tomorrow. If you're not going to Jacksonville, the best place to watch Bills versus Jags 1 p.m. on Sunday is right here at Wingnuts, 4600 Genesee Street or 1402 Millersport Highway over by the Marriott. It is going to be a very intense playoff Sunday.
There's a lot riding on this game, obviously, win or go home, but you mentioned the anxiety levels for both fan bases. I know the Bills enter this game as a 1.5-point favorite, but Jacksonville won 13 games this year. Expectations are very high. Trevor Lawrence has finally arrived. Now, part of it was poor coaching up to this point, but if anyone remembers when he came out in the draft years ago, this was the next John Elway, Matt, and he hasn't looked like that. So now I think he's going to feel a little bit of pressure in this game. A lot of national analysts believe that there's pressure on Josh Allen to deliver without Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I don't think that's fair to Allen with this roster as it's constructed, but going into this game, I'm oddly confident about the Bills.
One national narrative that I found to be very interesting is this idea that definitively, like I think there's an argument to be made, but the definitive way a lot of people are simply stating the Jags are a better team than the Bills. I don't necessarily agree with that because I think there's a lot that goes into this. This is a first-year rookie head coach in Liam Cohen, who has been absolutely outstanding. It is a home run hire. He's had a great first season. But let's talk about this schedule a little bit, right, Ryan? Because this 8-game win streak, there is a lot of really bad football teams that this Jaguars team has feasted on. And you can only play who's on your schedule. But this game on Sunday is against a team that has arguably the best quarterback in the league. I think one of the best in-game adjustments head coaches in the league, and it just so happens to be on the defensive side of the ball against Liam Cohen, who's going to be calling the offensive plays for Jacksonville.
Yeah, and if you're a Shout insider, Matt sent it out earlier today. This 8-game streak, they've faced the Colts twice without Daniel Jones. Remember, they were 8-2 with Daniel Jones. Then it was a downward slide from that point on. The Tennessee Titans twice, one of the worst teams in this league. Cardinals, Jets, Chargers, good win. And then, as you said, the Broncos, a fantastic win.
The other part of it, too, is they haven't seen a rushing attack. We're going to get into the keys to the game in a few moments here. They haven't seen a rushing attack like the Bills are going to present against them this weekend. And I also think they're going to face a team in Buffalo that's well-rested. They rested most of their starters last week. And a team that, it's funny because Liam Cohen kind of set the stage a little bit at the beginning of the week with, oh, we're home underdogs and we're going to place a chip on our shoulder. If I'm a Buffalo Bills coach or player and I've tuned into any of the national TV shows this week, it's almost like a foregone conclusion that the Jags are just going to blow the doors off the Bills at home. And this is a team that's played in quite a bit of playoff games over the last couple of years.
Yeah, Buffalo has so much experience, and that's going to be such an advantage for them going into this matchup. I mentioned it earlier this week on the BKL Makes Me Want to Shout show. This is Liam Cohen's first playoff game. Trevor Lawrence's third, if I remember correctly. This is going to be Josh Allen's 13th playoff game, or maybe he's already had 13. He's already had 13. Sean McDermott's already had 14. So there's so much more on Buffalo's side in terms of they've been there before. They know what to expect. They can come in with, I know they're not the underdogs in terms of the point spread, but that's going to be a hostile environment. I think Buffalo's going to be able to go in there and not be very phased based on what they've seen over the years.
I want to start on the offensive side of the ball for the Bills, because that to me is where I think this game is going to be won. How effective is this offense? Because if you rewind the clock 2 weeks, this was a Bills team that moved the ball. You look at the final stats, yards wise, not really turning the ball over outside of that early. I believe it was a Cook fumble. They really offensively executed in that game, except for in the big high leverage moments. And that's why you look up at the scoreboard at the end of the game and they only have 12 yards. They really got things cooking late in the game. If that version of the offense shows up on the road against Jacksonville, that's going to be bad news. But I have a little bit of a secret, I think, for the Bills, if they don't know this already, and they probably do because they watch film. Patrick Mahomes is not in the playoffs this year, right? But he did the Bills a massive favor back in week 5, because I think he showed the blueprint for how to attack this Jacksonville defense. They're good everywhere. They're a good run defense. They have a good pass defense. But Patrick Mahomes mixed it up. He ran for 60 yards and a touchdown in that game. And I think that's the cheat code that the Bills can employ. You mentioned all these quarterbacks that the Jags have faced this year. None of them are really the true dual threat quarterbacks that they're going to face in Josh Allen. And in that game, when they went heavy personnel, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Chiefs ran the ball, whether it was Kareem Hunt, 7 carries for 50, or Isaiah Pacheco, who was also 7 for 40, 50 in that range. They had a success rate on the ground that was pretty high in that game. And that's what I think is going to be one of the big keys of the game, getting Josh Allen out running and James Cook going in this game.
Yeah, Josh Allen coming off that extra week of rest essentially is going to help. He said there's been reports that his foot is as close to 100% as possible. We know what he can do when you unleash him as a runner, whether it's design runs or taking off in these big games when there's pressure coming at him. So I think he's going to be a factor. My big, bold prediction for this game is James Cook becomes the first back to rush for over 75 yards against this team this season. There's a lot of reasons for that. One, with Josh Allen, you obviously have to account for where he is at all times, but there's also the personnel packages. Buffalo being able to go jumbo, bringing in an extra offensive lineman, having Hawes as their tight end, the way he mauls players. And then, you mentioned on Mitch Morse's podcast last night. Shout out to Mitch. Great podcast, by the way.
You. That's how I know you're really my best friend. You even watch the pod when you're not on the pod.
That's right. You pointed out, though, that this year the Bills wide receivers are doing the blocking drills. So there's such an emphasis from top to bottom on this team to run the ball successfully. It's just going to be a little bit of a different beast than what I think the Jags have seen this year.
You know what's a different beast, Ryan Talbot? Sunday mornings at the grocery store. Could be a real beast. Everybody's trying to get everything. Everybody's kind of rolling through the aisles. It could be really a headache. But if you head over to topsmarkets.com right now, you can get the ease of shopping at your fingertips. And Slider Sunday, King's Hawaiian is going to have you hooked up with amazing spread. If you're hosting a big party, and you know how you should start every 1 o'clock football Sunday.
That's absolutely right. With the Tops breakfast pizza, I was going to say that's the cure to having those headaches. Those Sunday headaches go away. Can't beat it. Head over there, get your breakfast pizza. Head over to Wing Nuts, get your lunch and dinner. Can't go wrong.
Look at that. You're taking care of everybody all day, every day. I appreciate that. I got one key stat about this Jaguars defense that is top 5 in almost every key metric. They have faced heavy personnel packages the least amount of snaps of any defense in the NFL this year. So a lot that goes into that. They play from ahead a lot, which is interesting because Trevor Lawrence isn't as good when they're ahead as he is when they're trailing. We'll get to that stat in a little while. But they don't face multiple tight ends, extra jumbo, fullback on the field as much as any other team in the league. So I think the Bills are going to try to get their heavy personnel packages out there because they have a little bit of a cheat code too, is that they want Dalton Kincaid on the field. to really elevate their passing game. I think they can even maybe spread him out wide a couple of snaps in this game and try to see if they can't put some of these cornerbacks in a bind trying to cover him when they go man-to-man coverage. But I think the key to this game is getting into your heavy packages and finding some momentum to sustain drives.
Yeah, if you can have success on the ground, that's going to only open up things in the passing game. And, you mentioned Dalton Kincaid. Jacksonville lets up 7th most yards to tight ends in the league this season. And when Kincaid's been on the field, Josh Allen's stats have been significantly different. So whether he's targeting him or not, Kincaid unlocks something in this offense. And knowing he's going to be healthy in this game, you saw him against the Jets in that meaningless game, running some solid routes, getting open for Mitch Trubisky. He's going to unlock some more things in this passing game. And then Brandon Cooks as well. He kind of opened up the deep passing game for this team. Take a shot downfield early in the game. Make Jacksonville think that, okay, they're not going to just kind of play it safe, dink and dunk, and make them think that everything's on the table for the Bills to attack them.
We're here at Wingnuts, 4600 Genesee Street, previewing Bills versus Jaguars. We have a super chat live on YouTube. If you're watching there, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel as well. We really appreciate that. Justin says 33 points per game given up in the last 5 playoff losses by the Bills. If the D gets lit up again by an offensive head coach in his first playoff game, McDermott has to go, Ryan. And it's interesting because this has been a big storyline this week. Mike Florio put out a story on Pro Football Talk earlier this week talking about if the Bills lose, that could be a reason why John Harbaugh might be delaying some of the interviews with teams that currently have a head coaching vacancy. Locally, however, I don't think that there's anybody that covers this team that thinks there's a result on Sunday that would result in Sean McDermott getting fired. But if this scenario plays out, Josh Allen puts on the Superman cape and goes, has one of those heroic performances, and the defense is the one that ultimately lets things down and allows a huge Jacksonville offensive game. What are the conversations in the building between Terry Pagula and his decision makers on Monday?
I don't think it's a Sean McDermott decision. I think it could be a Bobby Babich decision where maybe you go to McDermott and say, listen, some changes need to be made on this roster. We love you as a head coach. You've won, more games than most head coaches in the time that you've been here in Buffalo over the course of the history of the NFL. There was a great article on him in terms of where he lines up with all the head coaches of the NFL with the wins he's had since joining the Bills. But I think maybe if you end up getting, letting up 30-plus points again this year, you tell him it's time to let another D coordinator come in, run his own defense. And, oh, by the way, I would be calling Jim Schwartz immediately if he doesn't get that Cleveland job. Bring him back to Buffalo, that aggressive defense, match it up with what the Bills have on offense. I think that could be a great pairing.
I think, too, and I know there's a segment of the fan base that no matter what Sean McDermott does, they can't get over some of the past shortcomings. I mean, the 13 seconds game, it's one of the all-time playoff coaching blunders. And it's interesting, over the last couple of weeks, it's felt like Sean McDermott has maybe lobbed a couple of, savvy media comments towards the job that Brandon Beane has done. He was asked earlier this season if this is a championship roster, and he didn't answer the question. He just said, yeah, I love the guys in the room. And, he goes on to, be very unhappy with the Darius Slay situation. And, hey, Max Hairston's out this week. It'd probably be nice to have Darius Slay in the building as a potential option. And then the latest comments around Jacoby Myers and the trade there, the Bills were in on him. Do you think that there really is any rift there, or is that just something where, coaches, GMs, they're going to play the game a little bit?
Yeah, they're going to play the game to try to protect themselves. It's frustration bubbling up a little bit. It's making sure that people know if it were up to him, either you would make sure that you had the assurance from Slay that he was going to come in and play, or you were just going to keep Jamarcus Ingram because they were a man down going into that Week 18 matchup with Ingram over in Houston now as he was claimed off waivers, and really could have used him in that meaningless game, taken Harrison off the field sooner, had him ready for this playoff game. So you throw that in, Myers, the praise that he has heaped on Myers. You would think that Myers was prime Jamar Chase the way that he's been hyping him up this week. Really good player and has been great for Jacksonville, but man, singing his praises a few times this week.
That's the funny thing about the dynamic is that the roster decisions really are Brandon's, and Sean is responsible for the game day roster decisions, right? Like who's going to be active on game days. Brandon decides who's going to make the team. They've worked hand in hand in that department over the years, but that's one area, and it's something I was pushing with both of them in the offseason. I think the true mark of a great regime is when you work hand in hand collaboratively to make these decisions. And I think if Sean would take a larger role in the offseason, maybe they can take a run at a wide receiver in March, in April, and not have to wait till halfway through the season when it feels like Brandon's kind of throwing darts, trying to just land something on the board to try to help the offense.
Right. The way things have worked out this year, it has been just darts on the board, bringing guys in, seeing what they can do. Hardman going from the roster practice squad, all bouncing around. Good punt returner, kick returner option, but didn't do much as a wide receiver. But they may have hit something here on Cooks, but maybe too little, too late. You're hoping that what he did in week 17 can be carried over into the playoffs. The Bills do need to find a long-term answer, though, whether it's in the draft or via trade going into next season.
2 more points on the offensive side of the ball for the Bills before we move on. First, injuries. That's to me where, outside of Maxwell Hairston, and we'll get to him in a minute, that's the injuries that people are watching right now. And one in particular, Ty Johnson, running back, third down back, the best blocking back that the Bills have in their stable. So that's one injury that's a huge concern. If he can't play, that changes probably some of the thinking in terms of play calling for Joe Brady, what he does on third down. I made the point that it probably puts James Cook in a situation where he's on the field a little bit more. But some of the feedback to that, and I have to agree with it, he hasn't always been the most reliable pass-catching option. He's had some drops over the course of his career. I do think you want the ball in his hands, but aside from that, Ty Johnson practiced today, limited, trying to test the ankle. It looks like he's on the path to probably playing, but he's probably not going to be 100%. How big of an issue is this for you?
It's not a massive issue for me, and I love Ty Johnson's game for all the reasons you mentioned, the blocking, the pass catching, being a great third down back. But I'm also been clamoring in key games where James Cook is sitting over on the sidelines when you really want him out there on key third down, fourth down situations. So I would welcome that in a winner go home matchup. And by the way, Ray Davis is pretty, running the ball with a pretty high level of confidence right now as well. I know it was against the Jets, but between the kick returns and the way he ran last week, I think he could step up and take on that number 2 role if he had to against Jacksonville.
The wide receiver rotation is going to probably change again this week. Josh Palmer played 63 snaps last week against the Jets, hasn't practiced at all week. And you start to wonder about these decisions. Like Curtis Samuel, injured, have not seen him around the building at all. He's on injured reserve. A lot of times when guys are on injured reserve, you still see them bouncing around. I see Ed Oliver every day somewhere, whether it be on the practice field, in the training room, in the locker room. Samuel's been out of sight, out of mind. And I saw Palmer in the locker room today, and he was kind of walking with a bag and kind of seemed okay. But I know this injury is something that's kind of been nagging him, been lingering. He also hasn't been very effective. So you have to wonder, is this something where the Bills are just telling him, you got this ankle injury, you haven't looked the same since, we're going to go with the guys that are more healthy in this spot, because this is win or go home. You can't take any chances that if he's not 100%, putting him out there. And Sean even talked about that a little bit today. They're making that decision and that estimation on a bunch of different players. Daquan Jones, Shaq Thompson is questionable with the neck injury. Looks like he's going to probably be good to go. But in terms of Palmer, it's just hold him back, lean into the guys that have made plays for you all season. Brandon Cooks the last couple of weeks, Tyrell Shavers, Gabe Davis, and Khalil Shakir.
Yeah, those would be your top 4. And if you had to elevate a 5th guy, maybe Keon Coleman gets that opportunity. But for Palmer, it's unfortunate. But when you think about it, making cuts on the field as a wide receiver with an ankle injury, that's going to hamper you. Getting off the line at the snap, it's going to hamper you. So clearly he's been pretty ineffective over this time. It might be a good opportunity to give Cooks more snaps. Let Shakir run some actual routes, not just those bubble screens, and see what you can do with that top rotation of 4 players, as you mentioned.
All right, we're going to transition here to what I think is I mentioned the offense, what I think they need to do is a key to the game. To me, this is where the game's going to be won. How do the Bills defend Trevor Lawrence? Because the Bills defensively, they're not a good run defense team, right? But they've been really bad amongst like the bottom 5 teams in the league defending dual threat quarterbacks. They did a better job against Jalen Hurts, but as they faced guys that can run this season, they have gotten out and really hurt the Bills in the run game. Trevor Lawrence does that just about as good as anybody over the last 8 weeks. But there is an interesting stat about Lawrence that I thought was interesting. Through a league high 9 interceptions when playing with the lead this season and completed just 56% of his passes in those situations compared to 64% completion rate when tied or trailing. What do you make of that?
Yeah, it's a pretty bizarre stat because usually when you have the lead, teams are going to think you're going to try to run the ball, and then that opens up the pass game a little bit. To have 9 interceptions, a lower completion rate, it's a little bit bizarre, Matt. So it'll be interesting. No, I'm not advocating for the Bills to get into a hole early in this game to see what it looks like, but it's fascinating. And, Hurts, you mentioned, I think the Bills did a really nice job in the second matchup against New England with Drake May as well, limiting him as a runner. You're going to need a spy on Lawrence. You need to make sure you can keep him in the pocket, keep him at home, try to get some pressure on him. And there's an injury to Jacksonville's offensive line that could be advantageous that we'll get into here in a little bit. But it's the numbers don't make sense in terms of what you would expect.
To me, the biggest name on defense this week is Joey Bosa, because this was the game, the team, and I know the Chiefs were the team that you brought him in here to affect, but this has been one of the top passing games and quarterbacks in the league over the last 2 months. This is what Joey Bosa is here for. The Bills' pressure rate in the first 8 weeks of the season was amongst the best in the league. We talked about it, right? Bosa was amongst the top 10 pressure creators in the NFL. That's all fallen off a cliff. And part of that was the injury. But the Bills as a team are not generating nearly the pressure or getting to the quarterback as much as they did early in the season. Do you think that they can affect Trevor Lawrence in this game, win one-on-one? And who is maybe an under-the-radar guy that you think on this defensive line has to be an X factor in this game?
Yeah, I don't know if it's underrated, but I agree with you. I mean, it's going to have to be Bosa and Russo. Maybe Epinesa is that third guy. Yeah, one questionable player for Jacksonville, the only questionable player for Jacksonville is Cole Van Lanen with a knee injury. And there's video footage of him out on the field today, and he was hobbling. He did not look good. So if he plays, that could be advantageous to the Bills, first and foremost. 92% win rate as a pass blocker, which has been their best. If he can't go, it's Walker Little that'll play in his place, who is significantly worse in terms of the pass rush win rate as an offensive tackle. So in either scenario, I think that works out in the favor of the Bills, where you really need Bosa to shine, you need Rousseau to shine, and Epinesa, as he's had in his moments in his career, whether it's getting his hands on the ball, getting after the quarterback, punching out a ball, whatever it is. Every now and then he flashes and make those key plays. Someone off the edge needs to do that on Sunday.
The Bills have been a little scary on 3rd and long this season. I mean, historically, even before Sean McDermott got here, I feel like 3rd and long has always been just a crazy down for the Bills. Late in the season, it's gotten a lot better. The issue is the Jags are one of the top teams in the league on converting on 3rd and longs. Trevor Lawrence is going to take chances down the field. He's not turning the ball over later in the season as much as he did early in the season. So that, to me, is also where you're going to have to win. You're going to have to get them off the field on 3rd and longs, because they're going to, they don't run the ball very well, right, but they will get the ball in like Parker Washington's hands, who is almost a complete replica of Khalil Shakir. He gets the ball in his hands. He is a run after the catch wizard. That, to me, is going to have to be an area. Shut down the run game. And then when you do set up 3rd and long, you have to get creative. Sean McDermott has to go deep into his bag and send some really confusing look at Trevor Lawrence and affect him and get them to turn the ball over.
And I think he can do it. Go back to, again, the New England game. Late in that game when the Bills needed to make stops, they went through the Rolodex, and every play was a different defensive look, and it was confusing Drake May. Go to the second half of the Philadelphia game, 17 total yards for that Philadelphia offense, because once again, they're changing it up. They're giving different looks. On 3rd down, they're running a 3-3-5, and they're mixing and matching personnel, trying to take away passing lanes, and maybe not depending on getting home. But if you can disrupt where you want to throw the ball on that first read, that can really frustrate a quarterback. So the Bills have been doing it late in the regular season. I think there's going to be a chance for them to do it here on Sunday and really try to frustrate Lawrence and maybe get him to throw a bad pass and interception.
Coming up on about 1,000 people watching live across all 3 platforms right now. Thank you so much. If you're on YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel as well. It's going to be a busy weekend, and I think probably one of our most viewed post-game episodes, no matter what happens on Sunday. Where do you want to go next? Because you had a really good talking point on Ryan Nielsen. That might be a good spot.
Yeah, looking at Jacksonville's team, they do have 2 pass rushers that have been coming on as of late. Josh Hines-allen, Trayvon Walker, 2 players that they drafted very high in Walker more recently, obviously. They haven't been able to get home against the quarterback at a high rate this season, but the last few weeks of the year, they started lining them up on the same side of the line, and it was 18 snaps, 10 pressures, 2 sacks in those 18 snaps. So they've unlocked something there, but the Bills might have the counter in-house in terms of slowing them down or coming up with a way to slow them down, and that's Ryan Nielsen. Nielsen's come in this year. He's been working exclusively, I would say, with the Bills' D-line, but last season he was in Jacksonville. And shout out to my friend Alfonso, who kind of put that on my radar earlier this week. And last year, both of those pass rushers had over 60 pressures. It was the first time that 2 teammates on the edge had over 60 pressures in Jacksonville's history, and Nielsen played a big role in that. So he knows some of their tendencies. Maybe one will over pursue, whatever it is. So I could see him working with Aaron Cromer this week, working with the Bills offense and letting them know, here's what you should look for with those 2 players and how to attack them.
Do you know how many pressures Josh Hines-allen has this season, according to Pro Football Focus?
I do not.
98. 98 in 17 games. I mean, I think you almost have to treat him like a Myles Garrett in this game, right? Like you have to chip, you have to get help over there. Deion Dawkins, I mean, to be honest, he's my player to watch tomorrow on Bills or on Sunday on Bills Kickoff Live, mainly because it's been such a uncharacteristic season for him. When he's been left one-on-one with elite level pass rushers, he's lost way more than we're used to with him. So that's going to be something too, is what's the best way to chip Josh Hines-allen? That might be something you could tap into with Ryan Nielsen.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just one of those sneaky things where you look at the coaching staff, you look at former players. I mean, not that Gabe Davis is going to have great advice on how to stop those 2 players, but being in Jacksonville last year, I know it's a completely different regime and coaching staff. You have like a revenge factor in that case. You have former coaches that know the tendencies of their players. There's just a lot to kind of watch and see how it all unfolds on Sunday.
All right, Maxwell Hairston is ruled out, ankle injury against the Jets and basically garbage time, and he won't play tomorrow. And listen, I think this has an impact on the game. You have a lot of speed on the outside with Brian Thomas. When they put Parker Washington at different spots in the formation, I think having a guy like Maxwell Hairston, who I think has allowed Sean McDermott at times to maybe lean a little bit more into man-to-man coverage. They traditionally play a lot more zone. You're not going to have that weapon on the defensive side of the ball. The good news is Tre'Davious White has had a rejuvenation this season. He has been really, really good over the course of the last 8 or 9 weeks. There'll be a play or 2 a game where it seems like he's out of position, but he's recovered in a lot of spots this year. And I think he's a really competitive guy. He's going to get a lot of help. But how concerned are you that Hairston's not going to be available?
Yeah, I'm pretty concerned. I mean, I love what Trey White's done this season. Christian Benford's been locked down since about week 6. But if anything happens to either of those, you're already at such a low point on your depth chart. I don't know what they would do, and that's where Hairston would have come in. But as you said, the mixing and the matching, lining up against certain players that have speed that's as respectable as his. You don't have that now. You're really going to be dependent on White and Benford on the outside, Taron Johnson in that nickel cornerback spot, and obviously the safety play as well to slow down this pass game where, as you mentioned, multiple weapons, Parker Washington, Jacoby Myers, Brian Thomas Jr., even Brenton Strange at tight end at times this year has really come on and had some nice games. So they need to be ready for that passing attack. As you mentioned a few times, Travis Etienne and company have not been the most effective on the ground. That could work out in Buffalo's favor, where maybe if they can show they can stop the run early, it's going to make Jacksonville more one-dimensional.
All right. It's about that time of the show. It is prediction time. You've picked against the Bills more this season than I think you ever have on this show. It got real quiet in here all of a sudden. because it's time for Ryan to pick the Bills. What do you think? Bills, Jags this Sunday. What do you got?
Yeah, I oddly feel confident in the Bills in this game. So I know maybe there are some people that wanted me to root or vote against them in this game or pick Jacksonville because the Bills do have a high success rate when I do pick against them in a lot of these games. But I think the Bills, with all the experience, having Josh Allen, just today, Dawson Knox saying Allen's going to put the Superman cape on Sunday. I think the offense is going to be able to kind of come alive in this matchup, put up 20-plus points, slow down Jacksonville enough to come out with this win. I'm going to actually go Bills 28, Jacksonville 21.
All right, there you go. Bills win there. All right, so I got a couple things here. First of all, my sense is that Sean McDermott has his own sense about the national conversation more than he maybe ever has before happening right now. And I think on one hand, you think, okay, maybe there's more pressure on him, but I wonder if he's just not a little pissed off and wanting to prove that he is going to go on the road and finally win that road playoff game. This is a big box to check for Sean McDermott. And I think he probably, he loves putting chips on his player's shoulder. I don't think there's anybody that likes putting chips on his own shoulder, probably more than Sean McDermott, former wrestler. I want to read this stat. When pressure arrived on Josh Allen this season, it turned into sacks 24.5% of the time. That's the fifth highest mark in the NFL this season and the most that Allen has had on his own since his rookie year. He held the ball 1.08 seconds after pressure, his longest mark since his rookie year also. I think the reset this week for Josh Allen couldn't have come at a better time. He's played scattershot. He's played just unpoised, something that we have not seen from him. I think back to that road Houston game all those years ago when they were up 16-0. He was just sugar high Josh, and you got to eliminate that part from the game. And I think the Patrick Mahomes game that I talked about against this Jags defense in week 5, Mahomes was so poised in that game. He moved in the pocket so seamlessly and really put a lot of pressure on this Jags secondary. And I think Josh Allen has to do that. Dalton Kincaid being back and as healthy as he's been in a while, to me, is a major key in this game. And I think Josh Allen is too good and too good in the playoffs to lose against this Jacksonville Jaguars team that I think is really good and probably on the come up, but they're not there yet. I don't think they're going to beat the Bills this weekend. I think the Bills win 33-27 this weekend.
I love that. And I love the point you made up about McDermott with the chip on his shoulder, because go a few years ago, regular season, Dolphins put up 70 points against the Broncos. Bills are next on the schedule. And all week long, McDermott heard questions about how are you going to slow down this offense, and what do? Shut down Miami the following week. Going to the playoff game last year against Baltimore, I think it was you that actually fired on McDermott a little bit, saying, are you guys good enough to stop the run, or something along those lines? And we'll see. So he's going to go into this. He's seeing what the national analysts are saying. This is going to be a game that Jacksonville dominates, according to a lot of the national media. He'll use that to his advantage. He'll make that let the players know what's being said about them. And I think he and this team are going to come in fired up.
All right. I think that's going to do it for our preview part of the episode. If anybody here wants to come up and share their thoughts on the game or ask a question, this is now the time. Probably start with my son here, because he actually had a prediction earlier this season, and I think he hit the nail right on the head. So come on in here, buddy. Sit up on the chair. All right. What's your name?
Luke.
What?
Luke.
You got to talk a little bit louder in there.
Luke.
There we go. All right. So Bills at Jaguars this weekend. How many chicken wings did you eat, by the way?
11, because Mom wouldn't buy me anymore.
All right. So 11, and Mom wouldn't buy him anymore.
Some shade.
So here's the deal. I got a little story with Lucas. His claim to fame is that he can eat 19 chicken wings in one sitting. Now, he is 65 pounds soaking wet. All right. So I very much question that number. And we went for wings this week, and I'm pretty sure you left a big chunk of them with a ton of meat left on the bones. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yeah, because they were rubbery.
All right. They were rubbery. How are the wings here tonight at Wingnuts?
Delicious.
Delicious. All right. All right. Bills at Jags this Sunday. What do you got?
I think the Bills are going to win 28-24.
28-24. How come?
Because I think that Jacksonville is really good, but the Bills are better.
All right, that's some great stuff, man. Thank you very much. That's a little bit better analysis than last time. Keep studying. I like it. All right, anybody else want to pop up here? All right, we got Matt Walk in the house. This is my buddy here. Yeah, sit down. Sit right. Come on in. The water is warm. Is this a Jim Kelly throwback here?
Yeah.
All right, so here's the thing. You got to eat the mic. All right? What that means is you got to have it really close to your mouth. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to hear you.
Okay.
All right, so Matt Walk, play basketball together, or at least
transit middle.
Yeah, we used to play basketball. We're muted. All right, we're back. We're back in a big way. I'm probably retired from the game of basketball. I don't know. So we've played basketball Wednesdays and Fridays for like the past 2 years together. The ankle injury was pretty traumatic. Did you see the video?
I did see the video.
It was pretty bad. It was pretty brutal. I was screaming so badly. I kind of blacked out. I didn't really remember it. But when I saw the video, it all came rushing back to me. And one of our other buddies had his kids there. And I'm pretty sure that they were scared and probably on the verge of crying because I think I was crying. And so I had to control myself, get things together. It was pretty traumatic.
You sent me the video as well, and I didn't know what was scarier, the injury or that rush shot that you let off before you landed on it awkwardly. The form wasn't there. It just...
All right, two things. Number one, get out. All right, number two, I had to try to get some type of shot up over this guy who, what are you, 6'3", 6'4"? Yeah, 6'3", 6'4".
I get these arms pretty high.
You get them pretty high. So I was pretty excited that I at least got the rebound in that situation, and I did get a shot up. And listen, maybe one of my teammates could have got an offensive board, clean up the glass, and put it in. They didn't do that, so that's neither here nor there. All right, Bills, Jags. What are your thoughts?
I got Bills 20, Jags 17.
Ooh, so you think it's going to be a little bit more of a low-scoring game?
Matt Prater's going to make a field goal at the end.
All right, so here's the thing. I told you at the beginning you got to eat the mic, and you are not eating the mic. So here's the funny thing about Matt Prater. We didn't talk about this yet. Right. I think he's going to be a game-time decision. Tomorrow it's at 4 p.m. The Bills will announce their elevations off the practice squad. I think Andre Jones, the defensive end, is probably going to be one of them. And then it's either going to be the kicker or maybe McCole Hardman. We'll see. But if they don't bring up the kicker, we know Matt Prater is going to play. You're that confident, even though the quad injury is something that had him kind of taper things down this last weekend?
I think it's a great story, and he's going to do it.
All right.
I'm on it.
What other thoughts do you have on this game? What has you the most worried?
Travis Etienne, for sure. Stopping the run. But it's a Gabe Davis revenge game, too.
Yes, we haven't talked about the Gabe Davis revenge game yet on this episode. The ETN point is really good because he hasn't had this like dominant season, but what he can offer are explosive plays. And that to me is where the Bills run defense has been at its worst.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, ETN has not had the strongest season, but with Buffalo's run defense at times, letting up the big runs, it's something that they obviously have to stop in this game. As for the kicker point, I'm going to back you up here on this. I think Prater in the warm weather is less likely to have a flare up with that quad again versus the cold weather where that's more common. So going with the regular practice regimen, I know he didn't practice today, but that's common for kickers, as you pointed out. I will say, though, Jacksonville's kicker is what worries me the most in this game, which sounds odd. That guy can make kicks from 68 yards with ease. So if you can get to midfield, all of a sudden they can put up points.
I was thinking earlier, if Prater is injured, is this the most lopsided kicker matchup in NFL playoff history?
It probably is, because I think Cam Little is probably the current, him and Aubrey are probably the two top kickers.
Even Aubrey in the last few weeks hasn't been very good.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a problem. But here's the thing, too. Josh Allen made the best point this week. Drives have to end in a punt or a kick every single time. You can't turn the ball. We haven't really talked too much about this. This Jags team, we talked about it earlier in the week, they're the number 2 team in turnover differential in the NFL. You turn the ball over on the road in a playoff game, it's not going to go well. All right, final thought. Hit us with it.
I think Khalil Shakir, 100 yards.
Ooh, that's a bold prediction. That'll only be the 4th 100-yard game by a Bills wide receiver this season. Give it up for Matt Walk. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Yeah.
All right, I don't do this often, but we got a long-time listener, and this will be a first-time caller. Scott McGavro, where you at? Come on up here, buddy. This is my brother-in-law. This is I'm going to let him tell it. I think he's a 20 to 30-year season ticket holder. If I'm talking Bills, if I want Bills takes, this is where I'm going. He's never, in all the years of Shout, come on the podcast, and he came to the show tonight, so I got to get him on here. What's up, man? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good.
Healthy, good. That's very important. So give us just the rundown on your feelings going into this game, because you said something interesting when you walked in here tonight.
Yeah, first of all, the Jacksonville hype is unbelievable. I can't get over how every national person is just Jacksonville. They beat a bunch of cupcakes, which it's under schedule, but they beat them. But this game's going to come down to one player and one player only, and it's Jackson Hawes. And if he is able to block them and Cook open up to run the ball, and then also open up that passing game, because you get the play action off of everything like that, that will make the difference in the game. That's the game right there. Can Jackson Hawes make a difference and still be able to, when you put Anderson in, he's not catching the ball. At least Hawes gives you that option. He get out there and a broken play and get you some first downs and stuff like that. So to me, he's the player. Is he going to be able to do whatever his matchup is, create the crease so that Cook can go? Because if Cook gets a crease, he's good. And they run the ball, they're going to win.
I love that. I think the tight ends can certainly be an X factor in this game, the blocking from Hawes, but also he's been able to show that he's a pretty good pass catcher as well. Absolutely. You have the blocking from Knox, and also for anyone that likes to, maybe put in a friendly wager for this game, Dawson Knox has had the first touchdown in 4 of the last 5 Bills wild card matchups. So something to consider in that game. And then obviously Kincaid, with the struggles that Jacksonville has had against tight ends this season, I think that trio could really make or play a big factor in the outcome of the game.
I'm going to put you on the spot here. It was reported today that the first head coaching interview for Joe Brady is with the Baltimore Ravens. Do you think Joe Brady gets a head coaching job? And if so, where do you think he winds up?
He's getting a head coaching job, whether it's college or in the pros. I don't know if it's going to be the pros, but if he does, he's getting a head coaching job. There's just no way that he's staying here. I just feel like they are definitely. And if you get Mike McDaniel on the down low, if he comes in to be offensive coordinator, I wouldn't be upset. Like I said, I feel like that's what we need. We need a guy that's going to be able to. We don't have the receivers that get open on their own. We need a guy who can scheme them, and he's the best guy at scheming them, other than Shanahan, which you're never getting Shanahan at this point. But to me, I feel like Brady is he's going either to the Ravens or he's going to a college. He's got some big programs are going to have some opening. He's going to go. So I feel like this is your last year. So this is his chance to put his calling card out there and say, hey, I can scheme up an offense.
And I don't know if you guys saw this or not today, but Miami made a hire for their new GM, and the GM's father was the passing game coordinator at LSU in 2017. When he retired, it was inherited by Joe Brady. They have a relationship. They have a friendship. There's a head coaching opening in Miami. Wouldn't shock me if he at least gets an interview there.
The funny thing to me about the Brady, and I know you want an offensive play caller. I get that. I get the interest in Brady. You know who I really am surprised about the interest in? And I'm not saying he's not going to be a good play caller, because I think he is. His dad was a coach. Davis Webb is getting head coaching interviews. I don't. The worry I would have is I would get, if you're a team and you have an opening, you want him as a play caller. I get that piece of it. Maybe you've heard through the grapevine he's been under Sean Payton for 2 years. I get all that, but he's never run a program. So you're going to ask him to call plays for the first time and be a head coach and run the entire thing. That's risky business.
That's a different world when you have to do both functions. It's one thing to be a play caller. It's one thing to be a head coach. To be a play caller, head coach that's special territory. Sean Payton barely does it well. I mean, he does it well, but it's tough. I think that's a big ask for a guy on his first job.
It takes years for coaches to be able to handle something like that. I even saw someone suggest that teams should be interviewing the offensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears, where really Ben Johnson's calling everything. But they're saying, get ahead of it early before it becomes the hottest candidate. You don't know what you're getting in situations like that. That's a total crapshoot, especially when you have a head coach that's also running all the plays.
Hey, great job, buddy. Your debut was a real smashing success. Give it up for Scott. All right, before we get out of here, we got a super chat here. Hey guys, Bills 30, Jags 13 from Monster Fan Adam with playoff Gabe and Deion Walker making big impacts. I like it.
I love the prediction.
30 and 13.
I love the confidence.
That's aggressive.
Wouldn't you love a game where you and I could sit there and actually file our stories right at the final whistle without having to worry about if we have to change our leads or not? Because there's been so many Bills games where you don't know. It goes down to the wire if they're going to win or not to the final seconds.
Here's the thing. I've covered a lot of these road playoff games over the years. Get ready to change the heck out of your story because it ends up happening every single time in the fourth quarter. You want to make a prediction, young lady? Come here. Come here. I brought Lucas up already. Here's Kennedy. Kennedy also makes a lot of really good predictions. So Bills versus Jaguars. What do you think about Jaguars? You like that kind of team?
No,
How come?
I don't know.
Oh, me either. You usually like animals. That's why I thought you might like the Jaguars.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So Bills versus Jaguars in Jacksonville, Florida. Who do you think is going to win?
Bills.
Bills? Final score. You got to say it really loud. How many points are the Bills going to score?
20.
20 points. Oh, no. Mommy cheated. Yeah, you yelled that out. All right. Oh, okay. 20. 20 for the Bills. And then how many for the Jags?
15.
15. Wow, that sounds like a safety in there somewhere, maybe. All right. Great job. You did a great job. You excited for a long weekend here?
Yeah.
All right. Good job, honey. Take care. Head over there. All right. From Wingnuts, 4600 Genesee Street, that is a wrap on Bills versus Jaguars preview episode of Shout. Thank you so much for watching, liking, subscribing, telling a friend, sending insider texts, everything. We really appreciate everybody following our coverage all season long. For Ryan Talbot, I'm Matt Parrino. See you Sunday, everybody.